Good evening. Hope you're having a great week. It is Tuesday, July 8th, 8:48 p.m. Central Daylight Time, local time,
In 150 feet, turn right onto West.
here in Pryor, Oklahoma. This is the Google facility in Pryor, Oklahoma. They own a bunch of property in this area.
Web Street.
The warehouse that I'm pulling out of right now, I think is part of their property. Honestly, I don't know how it's all structured.
Turn right onto West 540 Road, Airport Road.
Maybe the JQL agency owns the GXO terminals. I'm not 100%. I'm pretty sure Google owns them, but just made a delivery here. Tons and tons of drama on this load. I don't think I've made a video since I got this load. So we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. And bear with me. It's dusk right now, so we don't have very much time
The next right onto West 540 Road, Airport Road.
until it's just a black screen. Just a second here. Oh, crap. I came down here because I thought this had a light.
In a quarter mile, turn left onto US 69 South.
None of these roads around here have lights to get onto the highway. So I'm just going to have to go across the damn road. Hopefully I get an opening. I could end up sitting here for 15 minutes. It's really hard in a slow, large vehicle to turn out into a highway with a 65 mile per hour speed limit. A divided highway.
Turn left onto US 69
So
South.
bear with me while I get out onto the highway here. Ooh, I got an opening to the left. I do not have an opening to the right. Do I have a merge lane? I cannot tell. It looks like I might maybe have a merge lane. All right, after these two cars, I'm going for it. Because it looks like the other car's in the right lane.
Continue on US 69 South for 5 miles.
All right, I've got opening. All right, the right lane's clear, but there's a car behind me in the left lane. And I put on my signal to move over to the right lane, and it moved over to the right lane with me. Now it moved back over to the left lane. Now it's passing me. It's just a little impatient there, bro. For a lot of people don't understand what to do in that situation. A lot of people don't know what to do when they merge into the left lane. I've had a Landstar driver back when I was an owner-operator with USA Truck. I might have been a company driver. I know I was with USA Truck. And I had a Landstar driver merge out of a rest area that was in the center median, merged into the left lane, and just went straight across both lanes. Blocked both lanes going 20 miles an hour. Almost caused a huge accident because they drove across both lanes like that. I slammed on my brake. I think there was a truck passing me. That we all locked up our brakes and barely avoided. Everybody was laying on their horns, and oh my God, it was. And there was a truck merging on behind Landstar as well. And I think it was on Interstate 30. I was headed toward Texas on Interstate 30, I think. I'm not sure. But whatever direction you merge into, if you merge in from the right or the left, you get into the first lane that you can get into. and you establish yourself in that lane before you start changing lanes. You merge into the closest lane, and then you do lane changes as appropriate and as necessary. You don't just force your way over to the far left or the far right. Like if you merge in from the left side, then you establish yourself in the closest lane to you, the far left lane. You don't cut across all the way over to the right lane like that driver did. A second here, we got some stoplights and speed limits dropping down. Went from 65 to 55, now it's going down to 45, and I'm doing 48 right now, coasting. Car just pulled up to the light. It's probably going to trigger the cycle. I'm going to make it. I'm not stopping at this point. I've passed the point of no return. There's a certain point where, oh, there's all the city cops hanging out, chatting it up right there. There's a certain point where it's just dangerous to try to stop. And you're probably not going to end up stopping behind the line. You'll end up stopping in the intersection. So there's the point of no return. So I sit there and watch the lights, and I got my foot on the brake pedal. And then once I get past the point of no return, I move my foot off the brake pedal if the coast is clear, there's nobody running the red, and then I start accelerating because I'm going through the light no matter what. Doing 38, speed limit's 45. So, where to even start? I'm running up against my 14-hour clock right now. Let's start with that. I have 2 hours and 43 minutes left on my 14-hour clock, and I'm 150 miles away from the place that I parked the truck in Oklahoma City. I'm in a position where, like, I may end up a few miles short of getting home. What am I going to do in that situation? Am I going to abuse some personal conveyance?
Use the right lane to take the US 412 West ramp to Tulsa.
No, I don't think I will. Now, I could save some time.
Use the right lane to take the US 412 West ramp.
Maybe by taking this 412 right here.
Continue on US 412 West for 22 miles. Slight right onto the US
Now I feel bad for not moving over for that guy. I don't think he realized that he had a really long merge lane.
In 800 feet, turn right onto West 590 East Admiral. Turn right onto West 590.
That truck just came to a complete stop there at the end of the on-ramp,
In half a mile, make a U-turn.
making me sad face because he is disappointed in me that I didn't move over for him. It's like, bro, where you at? You had plenty of room to move over. But I knew that he had a really long merge lane, but unfortunately he didn't know that, so I'm sorry, bro.
Continue on US 69 South for 51 miles.
But anyway, so what does it mean to be running up against your 14-hour clock for people who don't know? I don't think I have many non-truckers watching the channel, but for any of them that are, I'm not going to try to explain the entire hours of service, but the maximum work shift that you can have while driving, like on your hours of service, there's no limit to how many hours you can work. You can work 1,000 hours straight if you want to, as long as you don't drive. So the limit on driving is 14 hours. That's what we call the 14-hour clock. You cannot drive after a 14-hour workday. After the 14-hour mark, you can no longer drive. But you can continue doing whatever other work you want. You can do pre-trips, post-trips, any on-duty stuff. You can do dock work, whatever. But until you take some type of rest break that resets your hours, you cannot drive. So my work day has been so long that I haven't used up all of my 11 hours of drive time in my 14-hour workday. But I'm going to run out of my 14-hour clock before I run out of my 11 hours of drive time within my 14-hour work period. So I have a 14-hour work period, and I'm going to hit the 14-hour mark before I run out of drive time. And what's the really bad thing about running against your 14-hour clock rather than your 11-hour clock? You can pause your 11-hour clock. You can move off of your drive line onto on-duty or sleeper berth or off-duty or anything besides driving, and it'll stop using your drive time. So you can save that 11 hours. So if, like, I'm, putting in my gate code to get onto the secure parking lot that I pay to park at, well, I can switch to on-duty to do that and conserve my drive time. I cannot do that with my 14-hour clock. Just a second. There's a four-wheeler behind that. Well, it looks like a box truck, and it does not have any lights on, and it is dusk. I think you can see my headlights on the roadway. It's getting dark enough. In a minute, that's all you're going to be able to see. I'm going to turn my lights off and on to give that guy a hint that he doesn't have any lights on his car. He did not get the hint. Or she, I don't know which it is. So basically this means that my clock is running no matter what I'm doing. I have 2 hours and 37 minutes to get to the place where I park the truck. Now, if I can make it to the gate and I've got like 2 minutes left, at that point I would feel comfortable. Just a second here. There's a truck on the shoulder. I'm going to speed up to hurry up and pass this box truck before it gets to that truck so that it can move over. And it's already moved over. We're good. And I'm having to keep an eye out for that damn car. If that thing gets into one of my blind spots without its lights on at night, it's going to be really hard for me to spot it. So yeah, if I get within a mile or two of the parking lot and I've got like a minute left, I'll pull over to the shoulder and switch over to personal conveyance. I'll I do little white lies like that, but I'm not going to run like 20 or 30 minutes on personal conveyance. I'm not going to risk my business and my livelihood over something like that. I will take a 10-hour break. Well, I'll only have to take a 7-hour break, but I will take a 7-hour break, 30 minutes from the house if I have to. So let's talk about how I got into this situation. The last load I hauled was from the Dalles, Oregon, which I know how to pronounce it now. Somebody told me. They said it's like Pals, so Dalles, the Dalles, Oregon, which is like 80, 100 miles east of Portland. Took a Google load from the Dalles to Atlanta, delivered it Thursday morning, July 3rd, and I was hoping to get another load that same day so that I could get to the house, or at least head toward the house over the July 4th weekend instead of sitting at the truck stop over the July 4th weekend. And I looked for a load all day long. I was on a night schedule, so it was hard for me to stay awake all day Thursday after I delivered the load. But I stayed awake all day until around 3 or 4 p.m. And all the load alerts just died. I was getting no load alerts. So brokers work bankers hours, and we're going into a holiday weekend. I was thinking, you know what? I bet most of the brokers are doing like a half day today, and they're starting their weekend early. So there's not likely going to be any more loads posted. And I was struggling to stay awake. I was like, it's late enough in the day. I'm not getting a load. I'm stuck through the weekend. So around 3 or 4 p.m., I went to sleep. And I woke up a couple hours later, wide awake. And I had a load alert that I missed. The load alert happened, I think, within 10 or 15 minutes of me going to bed. And I fell asleep almost instantly when I laid in bed. I was so tired. Just a second here. Going through a light. All right, stayed green for us. And it was a near perfect load that I missed. If I would have just stayed awake for like 15 more minutes, I think I would have been able to get that load. Left lane closed ahead. Workers on roadway. Speed limit is dropping down from 65 to 55. So I missed that load. That really ticked me off. So I was stuck through the weekend. And I kept trying to flip back over to a daytime schedule so I could stay awake all day to look for loads, because brokers work bankers hours. Oh my goodness.
There's a lane closure ahead.
The number of bugs on the windshield. I'm not going to be able to see anything in a minute. A second here. I'm getting into this single lane. We have a lane shift before the single lane starts. Looks like we're going to do some bi-directional. Bi-directional is awesome at night with all these people's bright headlights and all the bugs on the windshield that those headlights are hitting and refracting off of. Oh my goodness. Just awesome. But that load that I missed out on was Atlanta to Pryor, Oklahoma. It was a near perfect load. I was so upset about missing that load. Wagner city limits. We're now in Wagner, Oklahoma. All right, just a second here. All right, speed limit's dropping down from 55 to 45. And we're coming into town. We got stoplights. All right, light is red. And there's, looks like a truck and maybe a box truck in this lane stopped at the light. Or is that an RV? The RV or box truck, whatever it is, it's an RV. It's making a right turn. So there's a truck stopped in this lane in front of me. I try to stick with all the other trucks in whatever lane they drive through town in whenever we're driving through town on highways like this, because trucks accelerate really slow. I think it's incredibly disrespectful. It's rude. It's selfish for trucks to stack both lanes through small towns like this, because you're just impeding all of the traffic. But if we get somebody like this guy right here that is like a max weight load that's accelerating super slow and there's no four-wheeler traffic around me, then I'll go ahead and get around them. This is nice. There's not a lot of traffic in town, so it looks like I'm going to make pretty good time through these small towns. Google is estimating 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I have 2 hours and 26 minutes on the clock. Once I get past this stoplight, maybe not past the stop sign, once I get to a point where there's not a lot of stuff going on, I'll try to math it out. All right, we just hit the green. That truck's about a half mile behind me. Road work next 6 miles. All right, so let's see if Google's estimate is any good. 146 miles, 60 mile per hour average is 2 hours and 26 minutes. Huh. Well, a lot of this drive is going to be interstate. And I think a lot of the drive is 75 mile per hour speed limit. I really don't like going that fast.
There's a lane closure ahead.
All right, we have a lane closure ahead. It's like the left lane. I see an arrow up there pointing to the right. Left lane closed in half a mile. So ...145 miles, 2 hours and 25 minutes, and I have 2 hours and 24 minutes left on my clock. Oh my goodness, this is like cutting it so close. Every second is counting. So I need like a 62 mile per hour. So if I had a 62 mile per hour average speed, just a second here. We're going through some S-turn. But we're out of the single lane construction. We got our lane back. All right, that's one C. Now we're about to do the other C to complete the S. So I just need to have a really solid average speed on the highway. It doesn't have to be incredible, but it has to be, decent. And then on the interstates, I have to maintain a really good average speed, which should not be too difficult as long as there's not an accident or construction. All right, so 62 miles per hour. So let me think about this. So a 62 mile per hour average would get me over 2 hours and 21 minutes, around 140, 221 would be 124 plus about 21, 145, 146. we'll say 145 miles, and I'm 141 miles away. So a 62 mile per hour average would give me like 5 minutes of spare time. That's all I need is like a 62 mile per hour average. And I think I can do that. I think I can actually do better than that. And like every mile per hour average that I do higher than that is going to give me like 2 extra minutes. So if I have like a 65 mile per hour average over this 2.5 hours, like that could end up giving me like Just a second here. Is this car hopping onto the toll road? They hit their brakes. All right, we got a stoplight. We got an intersection. Right now it's green, but I'm going to slow down in case it turns red on me. Just a second here. I'm going to get over. Let all these people that are merging on from the toll road get on the road. I am so tempted to turn my windshield washer fluid on, but I know that all it's going to do is smear the bugs and make it even worse. And it's going to force me to have to stop and wash the windows if I turn them on. I won't be able to see anything. And it'll just get full of bugs again in a couple of minutes. All right, speed limit back up to 65. And I think I can see a town up at the top of that hill ahead. So we're going to be probably driving through stoplights again. This is what Highway 69 is like across Oklahoma. It's a pretty nice divided highway most of the drive, but you're constantly going through small towns. You know what sucks is I don't really want to record a 3-hour long video. So how are you going to know the conclusion of what happened? I guess I will end up recording a 3-hour long video. Oh my goodness, what in the hell is going on? All of these slow trucks are out here snail racing. They got both lanes blocked, and we're doing 55. We're doing 10 under the speed limit. But the speed limit's dropping down to 55, and we keep slowing down. Now we're down to 50. Are we on a hill? Like, it doesn't feel like we're on a hill. We're crossing a bridge right now. But these trucks are going so damn slow. One of the things that really sucks on this road is LTL drivers. There are a lot of LTL drivers that run up and down this road. Awesome. US Express out here blocking the left lane. They finally gave up on trying to pass. and slammed on the brakes and dipped over into the right lane. But the LTLs tend to run very similar routes, so they're usually all out here around the same time. And it might be early enough in the evening or late enough in the evening, maybe we're going through here in between their routes. I haven't seen any LTLs yet. This road really sucks when there's a lot of LTLs. They are very aggressive through these towns. Come on, turn green. There we go. Oh, great. We have these slow, heavy trucks back out across both lanes again. That US Express variant is out there trying to pass everybody again. So I'm going to have to deal with that person at every light. They're going to try to, because they have like no acceleration at all, because they're so heavy, they're just going to try to use the lights to try to catch me at a low speed. And they're going to try to coast by me with me stopped and them hanging back and timing the light. But I don't think they're going to be able to do that because they are extremely heavy and I'm empty. And they're not far enough behind me to time the light like that. So anyway, what was I talking about? I booked the load. Let's back up here. Where did I leave off on the story? Those heavy trucks are like a mile behind me now. What? I thought the speed limit was going to start going up and it just went down. It went from 45 to 35. Right lane ends. I thought we were getting to the edge of town. But no, we're getting to the center of town. Alright, come on, light's green. What is with all the brake checking? Oh, there's a second light there that's green. Or not green, red, I'm sorry. Now I'm the aggressive asshole out passing everybody. Whoa, buddy, calm down. I'm not sure if they weren't paying attention or if they were intentionally trying to, like, nudge me or something. But the truck I just passed came over to my lane. They seem to be pissed off that I passed them because they're trying to block me from getting back over in the right lane. They're trying really, really hard to block me from getting over in that right lane. They're matching me on when I'm slowing down early for the lights so that I don't have to come to a stop. They're matching me on all that. They're just driving alongside of me, matching everything that I do. And then I've got this car in front of me that keeps brake checking me. It's really ticking me off that this truck is boxing me into this lane. There's a four-wheeler with no lights on in the right lane, and the four-wheeler in front of me just got over into the right lane and is just high beaming the shit out of them. So that truck that was trying to box me into this lane, I just pulled away from them and they hopped in behind me. All right, just a second here. So now all the trucks are lined up behind me. "131 miles, 2 hours and 8 minutes. So at a 65 mile per hour average, that would give me like 7 minutes to spare, if I'm correct. Sorry, I'm focused mainly on driving. What in the world's going on? These four-wheelers keep flashing their high beams. And hopefully we hit a nice stretch of road where it's like 65 mile per hour speed limit. All this 45 is crushing me. Too many small towns on this highway. This is a really busy highway. They really need to turn this into an interstate. But knowing Oklahoma, what they'll do if they turn it into an interstate, instead of an interstate, they'll just turn it into a damn toll road. Oklahoma and Kansas just are abusing the toll road system. The toll roads in Oklahoma were supposed to be temporary, just to help fund the building of the roads. But like everything, whenever government gets a revenue stream, they'll never let go of it. Just a second here. four-wheeler slowed way down. I don't know if they're getting ready to turn or they're playing on their phone or why. I'm not understanding why they slowed down. So they are swerving all over the road. So maybe they got a text message and they're reading it. Let's see if they speed up here. That's a sign that says the speed limit 65, and they are doing 58. Now there's a speed limit sign that says 70. If the speed limit is going all the way up to 70, that means we have a decent amount of road without any towns. So there goes the car. They just sped up. They turned their high beams and their turn signal on. Are we dealing with an inebriated driver? Or is this person playing on their phone and they're driving with their knees or something? This four-wheeler is very annoying. This is also the four-wheeler that was high beaming the crap out of that car without its lights on. They were relentless, just flashing their high beams like crazy at it. All right, let's try to crunch the numbers real quick. 126 miles. So that's a 63 mile per hour average in 2 hours, and I have 2 hours and 3 minutes left. It's possible. What I'll probably end up doing is whenever I exit off the off-ramp, it's not a very busy off-ramp, so what I'll probably do is at the stop sign, I'll stop there for like 10 seconds and switch over to personal conveyance and just do the last like 2 miles parking the truck. Basically all I'm doing is parking the truck. I'm already at the location, I'm just parking it. I'm okay with, fudging it a little bit like that. But it's very time consuming for me to get from the off-ramp all the way onto the property and park the truck. Because I have to stop and put in the gate code and all that stuff. And stopping and going in these trucks is very time consuming, and the railroad tracks are really rough, so I have to go really slow across them. So that's probably what I'll end up doing is when I get to the stop sign at the end of the on-ramp, I'll switch over to personal conveyance. And that's going to look really suspect, but I'm most likely going to be at home for 8 days, so no DOT is ever going to see it. I can't believe how close this is. So anyway, let's finish talking about what happened. So I sat there in Temple, Georgia, just west of Atlanta, maybe like 20, 30 miles west of Atlanta. Sat there at the Pilot Flying J through the holiday weekend, the 4th of July. And I thought it was Sunday morning. I got a load alert at like 7:45 a.m. Eastern time. I was like, what in the world is going on? They're posting loads on a Sunday, and it was a really good load. It was this load. I was like, I'm not sure. Well, at first I was like, oh, that awesome. That load's picking up tomorrow on Monday. I'm going to book that load. So I went to start trip planning to see if, I could, run that load, what was going on with it. And, I'd taken a look at it, look at all the details, make sure there aren't any issues with it. And in the process of bringing up my phone to do all that stuff, I saw on my main screen, it said that it was Monday. I was like, what? And I checked on my computer and I searched on a website. I was like, oh my goodness, it is Monday. It was not Sunday morning, it was Monday morning. So then I wasn't sure if I could even make the delivery appointment because I was so far away from the pickup location. Sorry. I was thinking about my status update on the load. There's a bunch of stuff that I need to do once I get parked. I need to submit the paperwork. I need to do status updates on the phone. I need to send an email with my time in, time out. I'm not going to request detention pay, but I could probably get it if I wanted it. I think I was there for, I don't know, that's something I'll have to check whenever I do all the paperwork and stuff. I'll have to check and see when I went on the drive line. But I think I was there for like 4 hours. Not 4 hours. It was about 45 minutes ago, approximately. So, yeah, it was. It was like almost exactly 4 hours that I was there. So they owe me about 2 hours of detention because I had a 5 p.m. appointment. I got there at 5 p.m. But they may refuse to pay detention because, like, who is to blame? Is it the agency? Did the agency not submit the authorization request properly? Like, whose fault was it? And the JQL agency is not going to want to submit that request. They're not going to want to upset Google. I don't want to upset JQL or Google. Is it really worth asking for? I don't even know what the detention pay on the account is. It's probably like $50 an hour, so it'd be an extra $100. And I don't even know if I get 100% of that. I'd probably only get 65% of that. So I'd get an extra like $65 and potentially. Just a second here. There's a four-wheeler just tailgating me. I don't know why people do that. They fly up on you, get right on your bumper, and then just sit there for like 5 or 10 seconds, 10 feet off your bumper, and then they'll get out and pass you. People do that to me all the time. It makes me think, like, did somebody write something on my trailer and people are back there trying to read it? Like, what's going on? And I've never had anything written on the back of my trailer. Like, I've checked because of people doing that, and I've never found like a sticker or any writing or anything on the back of the trailer. All right, we've only got 5.4 miles until we get on to I-40. And then I should be able to have a much more steady mile per hour average. Everything should be a much more consistent. I should be able to get a much better idea. Fry Miller. I can't stand that company because of interactions I've had with their drivers. I had a Fry Miller almost hit me at the Interstate 35, Interstate 240 interchange. It's a little clover leaf that has those 20 mile per hour on and off ramps, and it's a shared merge lane on and off ramps. And Fry Miller, I was getting on the off ramp, and Fry Miller was getting on. It was a shared on and off ramp. I was exiting the interstate, and Fry Miller was getting onto the interstate. Fry Miller had a yield sign on the on ramp, and this was at like 2 o'clock in the morning. There was nobody on the interstate. Like, it was desolate. It was barren wasteland. This was not like heavy traffic or anything. It was just the two of us. They would not yield. And they got right up alongside me and just would not relent. And I ended up having to slam on my brakes and come to a complete stop. And Fry Miller they didn't even slow down. They ended up driving over a curb to cut me off to get onto the interstate. Like, it was just unbelievable how aggressive they were. Like, I just couldn't believe it. Now I get very cautious anytime I get near a Fry Miller truck.
In 2 miles, take the I-40 West exit toward Oklahoma City.
In 2 miles, we're getting on to I-40 West. There should not be a lot of people getting on to I-40 West. The people that are on 69 South, a lot of them are headed to Texas. They're just using 69 to cut across from like Interstate 44. A lot of the traffic on 69, the truck traffic, gets on from Interstate 44, and they use 69 to cut across Oklahoma down to Texas and bypass Tulsa and Oklahoma City and avoid all the toll roads. All right, 1 mile. Second, there's somebody on the on-ramp. I can't see them. Just see their headlights. All right, they're way back there.
In half a mile, take the I-40 West exit toward Oklahoma City.
All right, is the truck in front of me getting onto I-40? Nope. Yes, no, I can't tell. No, it looks like
Take the I-40 West exit.
they're maybe. Yeah, they're past the on-ramp. I did not notice a speed, which this is a highway, not an interstate. So interstates, if they don't post a speed for a turn, then it should be safe to take that turn at whatever the speed limit is. But on highways, don't trust that shit. Highways don't have the same standards as interstates.
Merge onto I-40 West.
And state roads have even less standards. Ooh, plenty of room to merge on. All right, once we get on here, we're going to check and see.
Continue on I-40 West for 99 miles.
All right, 75 mile per hour speed limit. Oh my goodness, do I want to do 75? Let's set the cruise at 72. And check the, run the numbers here. So 109 miles away. We have an hour and 49 minutes. So let's think about this. Let's say I have a 65 mile per hour average. 65 and 108 miles. Would be around 1 hour and 42 minutes approximately, and I have an hour and 48. So I should have 6 minutes to spare if I just have a 65 mile per hour average. So I don't need to go 75. Uh-oh, I think I saw some lightning. Yep, there's lightning straight ahead. Hopefully we don't hit a bad storm and have to slow down even more. All right, let's get back to talking about booking the load. So it took me a long time to book the load. So they posted the load at like 7:45, but the people that answer the phones didn't start working until 8 a.m. And I couldn't get anybody on the phone until like 8:15, 8:20, somewhere in that area. I was surprised that the load was still on the load board at that point. They posted 2 of them, and somebody booked one of them, but the one of the 2 that I wanted was still on the load board whenever I finally got a hold of someone. And I was expecting them to tell me, oh, it's already covered. But no, it wasn't. It was available. I booked it. And I did a really, really quick trip plan, and it was a tight schedule. And I was like, okay, I just need to get there ASAP, and I can, figure out the details while I'm getting loaded. So I just rushed to get the truck ready to go. and took off from Temple, Georgia to Laverne, Tennessee, which is just south of Nashville. And I left at like 8:30. It was 263 miles, and I left at about 8:30, 8:45 a.m. Eastern, and I arrived at noon Central, which would have been 1 Eastern. So that took me, what is this, 4 hours and 15 or 30 minutes, somewhere around 4 hours and 15 minutes to get there. 263 miles. And then they told me that my delivery appointment wasn't 3 p.m., it was 4 p.m., and they were running behind schedule, and they ended up getting me into a dock at 4. They didn't start loading me until 5, but I only had 7 pallets, so I was loaded by 5:30. The truck behind me is catching up with me very slowly. They must be going 75. So as soon as they got me loaded, I just immediately took off. I already had my GPS set up and everything. I just got all my paperwork ready to go, updated my ELD, did all the stuff I was supposed to do, took pictures of the seal, sent off emails I was supposed to do, and took off as quickly as I could. And I was, making pretty good time, and it looked like I had 2 or 3 hours to spare on the trip. And then I had that blowout. I had a tire blowout on I-40. I don't know. I would say like 80 miles west of Nashville on I-40. I remember that the exit that I took after I had the blowout, the very first exit that I came across was exit 152. I remember that because there was a sign about some kind of porn store that had truck parking at exit 152. But it was like 6 miles until I hit an exit after I blew out that tire. Seemed like it was taking forever to find an exit. I was going 40 miles an hour down the interstate with my flashers on. I didn't stop when the tire blew out. I knew what happened. And we were going up and down hills, and it was windy road, and it was just really dangerous. I didn't want to pull over onto the shoulder. So I just wanted to wait until I found an exit. But it was a very long 6 minutes. Not 6 minutes, it was longer than 6 minutes. It was a very long, like 15 minutes. It was a very long 6 miles, approximately. But I got there to the convenience store, took a look at the damage. It really didn't do anything other than blow out the tire. It caused a little bit of damage to the mud flap, but I was able to bend it back into place, and nothing needs to be replaced on the mud flap. It's still good to go. It doesn't look pretty anymore, but it's still good to go. So didn't have to get anything replaced aside from that tire. So, I mean, it could have been a lot worse. That was a pretty good outcome. So I started looking to see what shops were in the area, and about 12 miles west, the direction I was headed, there was a Pilot Flying J that had some kind of tire mart. I want to say Southern Tire Mart. So I was like, oh, I bet they have reasonable prices. No. They had absurd prices and absurd policies. So I called them up, asked them like how much to do a road call, and also how much if I limp the truck into the shop. If I just limp it the 12 miles there. And they said it's going to be a lot cheaper if I bring it into the shop. I was like, can you give me like a ballpark? And they said, well, we charge a minimum of 2 hours labor on a road call. I was like, okay, what's your labor rate? $160 an hour. So a minimum of $320 for a road call. Minimum of $320 extra for the road call just for showing up. That's quite absurd. And then I was like, all right, well, how much if I bring it into the shop? And he was like, well, it depends on the tire. And I said, well, the tire that it's going to be paired up with is pretty low on tread, so we're going to have to use a trailer tire to match tread. A drive tire is just going to have way too much tread on it. And he said, we can't put a trailer tire on a drive. And I was like, what do you mean you can't put a trailer tire on a drive? And he said, it's corporate policy. And I said, okay, I'm not following you on this, because the only difference between a drive tire and a trailer tire is tire height. Trailer tires have less tread depth, brand new, than a drive tire. So if we're going to match tire height on a worn out drive, then we're going to have to use a trailer tire. We can't put a drive tire on there. It's going to be way too tall. I said, so what you're telling me is that if I come to your shop, my only option is to replace both drive tires instead of just replacing the one blown out tire. Was that a raccoon that ran across the road or a possum? I couldn't tell. But it made it. I'm happy that I did not run it over. Raccoon out here playing Frogger. It looked like a raccoon to me, but I didn't see it. I didn't get a really good look at it, just based on the way it was running and how it kind of looked. My first guess would have been raccoon. Could have been a chupacabra. So I told the Southern Tire Mart person, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to call around a couple other places. I'll give you guys a call back. So then I called Love's, which was 12 miles in the other direction, headed east, back where I came from. I was lucky that I was actually that close to multiple tire shops. So I called Love's and asked them the same question, and they said the same thing. Well, it depends on the tire. And I said, well, I told her the same thing. I said, well, it depends. I said, we're probably gonna have to use a trailer tire because it's a worn down drive. So what are our options for trailer tires? And she said, well, we've got, I said, well, what are your options for like cheap trailer tires? And she said, our cheapest trailer tires She said, do you want a recap or a brand new tire? And I said, what's the price? And she said, recap is like $330 and a brand new Rawlson, $350. And I said, well, that's not much of a choice. Recaps suck. If they're that close in price, then let's go with a new tire. I said, but what's the price gap between that tire and a name brand tire? You know, some brand I've heard of, like a Firestone or a Goodyear, a Michelin, you know, something I would recognize. And she said, $500 and something, like $520. I think it was a Firestone. So the price gap between the cheapest brand I've never heard of and the cheapest brand I have heard of was $350 versus like $520. It's like $170 price difference. Like, yeah, that's fairly significant. And then she said, she gave me a quote of $500 total to get it done at the shop, and I think it was $758 to do it on a road call. And I said, $260? I think I'll drive 12 miles for $268. And she said, yeah, and the other thing is that we couldn't do the road call today. We'd have to do it tomorrow because we have road calls booked until we close at 11. So we can't do any more road calls tonight. So I was like, well, that makes it an easy decision. And I said, well, what's your wait time like on the shop? She said, there's no one at the shop. You can get in here right now. I was like, I'll be there in about 20 or 30 minutes. I want to be driving 12 miles at about 40 miles an hour. And I got there and got right in the shop, and they got right to working on it. There were no issues with replacing the tire. However, when I first got there, I was like, all right, I want to check the tire height between that Rawlson and the tire we're going to match it with and see what the difference is. And they said it was like 5/16 of an inch difference. The Rawlson was like 5/16 of an inch taller than the tire that was already on there. And they said that that's within tolerance levels. So it shouldn't cause any issues. So I was like, all right, let's do it. So no issues with the tire. But I also asked them to do a tire pass, which is Love's term for checking tire pressure and airing up your tires to the proper inflation. It's $5. That was a lot of drama. It took him about 30 minutes to replace the tire. It took him about an hour to do the tire pass. And he did not even do the tire pass correctly. So he was in, like, I hover over mechanics when they're working on my stuff because mechanics are really bad about breaking things and trying to hide it. Because they don't want to get in trouble for it. So to make sure that they do the job properly and they don't break anything, I tend to hover over mechanics. Now I can't be in the shop at Love's, so I stand outside the shop area and just watch from the doorway. And he's in there just letting air out of my tires, like hissing sounds for 30 plus seconds. Like, what in the hell is this guy doing? And then he waves me over to come over to him. So I walk into the shop. He's like, "This is your truck, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "What tire pressure did you say?" I said 110 on the drives and 120 on the steers. And he said, "The drives are at 120. I was like, "What? That doesn't make any sense." He's like, "Yeah, they're already at 120. I was like, that's not possible. So he started trying to bullshit me, and I basically told him that no, that's not possible. And then he started making excuses for his bullshit. He started saying, "Well, this tire pressure gauge is made for cars," and it was. He was using a tire pressure gauge that was designed for cars on a truck. And for people not familiar with truck tires, yeah, you can check your steer tires with a normal tire pressure gauge, but you cannot check the air pressure on the drives or the trailer tandems with a car tire gauge, because the valves are just, they're really hard to get to. You need a tire gauge designed for trucks to be able to get the gauge over the valve properly. It is extremely difficult to read the tire pressure with a regular car tire gauge. It's not even easy to do it with a truck tire gauge, but it's a lot easier than a car. So he started making excuses, and I was like, "All right, well, let's try my tire gauge." So I got my tire gauge out and handed it to him, and like he just couldn't figure out how to use it. So I told him how to use it, and he said that, like, "Okay, I get it now." Because I have a digital gauge, it's really simple to use, but this guy was really he was struggling. He was having problems doing just about everything. So then it started raining, and I went into the office because, I couldn't be in the bay, so I had to get back outside again. I didn't want to stand out in the rain. And then like 5 minutes later, the other mechanic that's running the front desk comes over and tells me that he's done and wants me to sign the paperwork and pay. So I do. And that just doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't seem like he's going to be able to get all that done in just a couple of minutes after letting all that air out of the tires. Like, it's going to take a while to air those tires back up after he let all that air out of them. So I'm just a little puzzled. So whenever I go over to the truck, he's still standing there, and I asked him, I said, "So you got everything aired up? All the drives are at 110, and the steers are at 120. He said, "Oh, yeah, everything's good. It's all good." Like, okay. And then he took off immediately after that. And I got my tire gauge and checked 4 tires. I checked a steer tire. It was good. 121 PSI, which is normal because I check my steer tire pressure quite often, and I air them up quite often because you do not want to blow a steer. and they're the easiest ones to check and air up. You can use a regular car tire gauge on them. So I checked that, and then I checked 3 drive tires. 2 of the drives were at 105, and the third one was at 87 psi. That was the one that he was letting a lot of air out of while I was standing outside hovering over him. So I went into the office and told her that told the mechanic that was working the front desk that they needed to do the tire pass again. Told her that I checked, the tire pressure on 4 tires and what the outcome was. And so she went in there and redid the tire pass, and I sat and watched her. And then after she finished, I went through and checked several of the tires, and she didn't get them quite to 110. She got everything to basically 108 psi, which is close enough. I didn't want to sit there all day long for something as simple as a $5 tire pass. What I'll probably end up doing is next time I have free time at a Pilot Flying J fuel island, which most of the Pilot Flying J fuel islands have air hoses, whereas Love's and TA Petro hardly ever have air hoses. Well, let me not talk too much about Love's because I don't go to Love's very often. But TA Petros, hardly any of them have fuel or airlines at the fuel island. Hardly any of them have accessible airlines anywhere. You usually have to walk over and ask the shop to use their airline. And the shop is usually like, well, it doesn't have, what's it called? The thing at the end. It's just an air hose. You'll have to use your own whatever thing. And that's a way of basically telling people to screw off. Is we're not going to let you use our air nozzle. You can use the air line, but you have to use your own air nozzle. And who carries air nozzles with them? Me. I had them do that to me, and I was like, oh, cool, yeah, I'd love to use mine. Because it has a pressure gauge on it. I don't have to constantly check the pressure. And I'll just go over there and snap. Mine has a quick fitting on it. And I just pop it right into their airline. And I had a TA Petro mechanic look at me weird whenever I did that, because I don't think they've ever had somebody that had their own air nozzle. But yeah, he looked all kinds of confused, and he talked to me very different after that. There was like a level of respect that he had that I had my own airlines and stuff. But yeah, what I'll probably end up doing is next time I have a lot of free time at a Pilot Flying J, when I'm at the fuel island, I'll go around and air up the tires to the proper pressure. It's not very difficult to do. It's just a little time consuming. And like, you don't want to be wasting time at the fuel island because it's usually really backed up. But anyway, finally got all that fixed. They also had this weird policy where they made me drop my trailer. They said for us to work on drive tires, you have to drop the trailer. You have to be bobtail for us to work on your drive tires. It's like, what? Why? Like, this was I think it was around 8 o'clock at night or something. It was late enough in the evening that the parking lot was completely full. I was like, well, where, do you guys have a spot for me to put the trailer? And they're just like, anywhere you can find a spot out there. It's like, what if I can't find a spot? Is there another option? And they said, well, you can park it alongside that trailer. They had a trailer alongside the building that they probably, what most of the tire shops use the trailer along the side of the building for is using, they throw old tires in there, is usually what they use those trailers for. But they had one of those trailers that they probably used for old tires. And I circled the parking lot. There were no spots available. There were people circling the parking lot looking for spots, like vultures. So I dropped the trailer alongside their tire trailer. Just a second here. And then I got rolling. So now let's do a quick update on the ETA. So I'm 73 miles away, and I have an hour and 19 minutes, and I'm doing 72 miles an hour right now. Hour and 19 minutes. If I stay at 72 the rest of the drive, then I'll have like 19 minutes to spare. I don't even need to go on to personal conveyance on the off-ramp. But let's say 65 mile per hour average, because I'm probably not going to be able to maintain this speed once I get into Oklahoma City. I'm going to get onto Interstate 240 at the outer edge of Oklahoma City, so I'm going to bypass most of the town. But once I get close to Oklahoma City, let's see, it's 10:30. Just a second here. They're bouncing around so much. Why can't they make flat roads or smooth surface roads? Why is it like a damn carnival ride driving on our interstates? 10:21. Yeah, it's probably late enough at night that the traffic should not be very bad. But once you get like 20, 30 miles outside of Oklahoma City, traffic just starts building and building and building. All the small towns surrounding Oklahoma City, there's traffic going to and from those towns. And then we have this weather that we keep driving into. Weather systems in Oklahoma tend to go northeast. We are headed like straight west right now. So that storm is headed slightly toward us, but mainly north. So it's headed a little toward us, but mainly to the right of us. But we could drive into that storm at any moment, and if it starts raining, I am not going to continue doing 72 miles an hour. But 65, let's do a 65 mile per hour average. So 71 miles, that would be 1 hour and 6 minutes. Now we're 70 miles away, 1 hour and 16 minutes left. So that's 1 hour and 5 minutes. And I have an hour and 16 left. So right now I have 11 spare minutes with a 65 mile per hour average. That's plenty of time. We're good, we're good, we're good. Think we're good. As long as we don't hit any unexpected delays, we're good. It's late enough at night that traffic should be pretty light all the way there. So where were we at with the story? So they finally got everything done, and I left the Love's truck stop and continued driving on. My initial plan was to drive all the way to Little Rock, but because of that delay, I had to redo my trip plan, and I came up with a new destination that was like halfway between Little Rock and Memphis, because I lost a couple of hours. So took off driving, and I was really, really tired. I started getting really, really tired. And I was sitting there thinking about stopping early, and I was thinking about where to stop and how it would affect the trip plan and whether it would, make me late. And I was sitting there thinking about all that stuff, trying to figure out what to do, and I just kept getting more and more tired, and I ended up falling asleep at the wheel. That is the first time I've done that since I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, I did a lot of stupid things, and I got lucky, and I did not end up dying from any of those dumb decisions. So I learned from those mistakes. Some people don't get that opportunity. Some people do something really stupid one time, and they never get an opportunity to learn from that mistake. I got lucky, and I got an opportunity to learn. So I don't do stupid crap like that anymore. But I pushed myself further than I should, and I fell asleep at the wheel for like 1 second. I just completely nodded out. Like, eyes roll in the back of my head, body went completely limp, but for only like 1 second. And then a second here, is this a vehicle towing a vehicle? It's a vehicle towing two other vehicles. Sorry, I'm just trying to pay attention to the cars around me while I'm doing all the passing here. What in the hell? This looks like another vehicle pulling vehicles. These car dealers tend to drive in packs like this. I don't know why they do this. I'm guessing that they're coming from an auto auction, and like a whole bunch of them go together. Yeah, it's another pickup pulling two other vehicles. I'm guessing that it's auto auctions, and they take multiple people and multiple vehicles to be able to bring back a bunch of vehicles at once. But who knows what it is? That's just a guess that it's used car dealers going to auto auctions. All right, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, nodding off. I went completely limp. Eyes rolled in the back of my head, and I started dreaming. All in like 1 second. And then I had like this sensation of falling. You know how you have that sensation of falling in your dream? and you wake up and you jerk really hard and your adrenaline starts pumping, and like that is how I woke up from that like 1 second of sleep. I woke up with that like rush of falling, and my adrenaline kicked in and I was wide awake, and I was like, okay, I'm getting off at the next exit. And I did. But that exit didn't have any truck parking. All the truck parking was completely full. And then I busted out the map and started looking, and 6 miles there was a way station in Tennessee. So I drove 6 miles to that way station, and they had plenty of parking there. They had a nice restroom. I couldn't find the restroom. I couldn't find a porta potty. And so I was like a little confused. So I walked over to the building, and the guy waved me to come in the door, and I opened up the door, and I was like, "You guys have a restroom or a porta potty or something?" He's like, "Building 3, that gray door." I was like, "Sweet, thanks." They didn't have like any markings on it to indicate it was a restroom. So I don't know if it was a public restroom or if it was just their restroom that they were letting me use. I suspect it was both. All right. 65. Oh, I was about to say, okay, we got close enough to Oklahoma City that the speed limit's dropped down to 65, but no. The speed limit went up to 65, and now it's up to 75 again. So we're going to turn the cruise back on at 72. So yeah, I slept there. I'd been awake for right at 30 hours, almost exactly 30 hours at that point. And I thought that I was going to hibernate. So I was planning on taking a full 10-hour break. But I woke up after 5 hours and I was just wide awake. Could not sleep anymore. It was really good sleep. I just slept like I went into a really deep level of sleep. And so since I was wide awake, I was thinking, okay, what's the option for a sleeper split? So instead of sitting here for a full 10 hours, maybe I could just sit here for 7 hours. And I won't have to sit here and stare at the pavement for 3 hours, because I was coming up really close to the 7-hour mark. So I figured it out, and I was like, okay, I will be able to drive almost all the way there on the sleeper split. I'll be able to get within like an hour of the delivery location. And I could stop at a Pilot Flying J truck stop, take a shower, because I haven't had a shower in like 3 or 4 days. And I was stinking something awful because of, sweating like crazy dealing with the blown tire. And then also, when I was getting loaded at the shipper, I was standing outside for like an hour talking to another Landstar driver, and it was like 90 degrees outside. I was sweating like crazy. I'm surprised that the other driver was willing to stand there and talk to me for an hour, because I stunk something awful. Like, could you imagine somebody that hasn't had a shower in 3 days that's just sweating like crazy? That was me. And this guy, I kept trying to keep my distance away from him, and he kept leaning in on me. I'm like, can you not smell me, bro? I was trying all kinds of stuff. Like, I was trying to stay downwind from him. Like, all kinds of things. I'm surprised nobody said anything. Like, I interacted with a whole bunch of people just stinking something awful. I get really embarrassed. Like, I didn't realize my plan was to take a shower Sunday night in anticipation of booking a load Monday. And I thought it was Saturday night, and it was actually Sunday night. And, it was Monday morning, and I thought it was Sunday morning. So, and then when I booked that load, I didn't have time to take a shower. And then, like, I had difficulty trying to find a place to take a shower on the way here, but that's the plan that I ended up coming with. Was I did the sleeper split. I stopped at a Pilot Flying J right across the border into Oklahoma, Roland, Oklahoma, which is like 6-8 miles from Arkansas. And I stopped there and took a 3-hour break and took a shower while I was there. Just a second here. That's somebody on the shoulder. Or no, it's not. But yeah, I finally got a shower in before I got to Google. I don't like going to customers, doing a pickup or a delivery, stinking, yeah. Are they on the shoulder now? I see 4-ways on. They're in a turn. It's hard for me to see them. I think they're on the shoulder. Yeah, I see triangles. Look like an extra lease trailer. You don't see as much of those as you used to. I used to see tons of extra lease trailers. I don't see them very much anymore. Maybe it's just the areas that I drive in now. I used to do a lot of East Coast driving or eastern half of the U.S. driving. Now I mainly drive western half of the U.S. So maybe extra is still really big in the East. "44 miles until I get onto Interstate 240. And then I've got 10 miles on Interstate 240. I'm pretty sure Interstate 240 is a 65 mile per hour speed limit. And I think once I get close to the Interstate 240 on-ramp, speed limit's going to drop down to 65, probably like 5 miles before I get to 240, 5 or 10 miles before I get to 240. So approximately the last 20 miles is most likely going to be a 65 mile per hour speed limit. But I've still got 33 miles until I get to that point. If I stay at 72 that whole time, I will probably be able to maintain a 65 mile per hour average. And what's that going to put me at? I'm 52 miles away. It's probably going to take me like 50 minutes. I don't know. That's not easy math to do in my head. And there's a car behind me with their brights on. So I'm probably about 50, maybe somewhere around 50 minutes away, 49 minutes away, 51 miles, probably somewhere around 48, 49 minutes. And I have an hour and 1 minute. So I'm just looking like I'm having about 12 or 13 minutes. Just a second here. The car with their brights on is catching up with me pretty quick. And then this car in front of me is slowing down. And it's hard for me to judge the distance on the car behind me because they have their brights on. I can't tell how fast they're going or how far they are away from me because their lights are so bright. So bear with me a second. Like, are these two idiots planning this shit? Is this an insurance thing? This car keeps slowing down. All right, let's see what this car does when I get out in the left lane. Oh, it looks like the car behind me dimmed their lights whenever they had my trailer right in front of them, reflecting the lights back in on them. All right, the car has sped up and is basically speed matching me now. Now they're slowing down. I'm going to speed up now that they're slowing down. So this person is consciously choosing to slow down. So now I'm speeding up. If I would have sped up while they were just like driving on instinct, then their natural tendency would be to speed up with me. But they noticed that they were doing that and they made a conscious effort to slow down, and that's when I sped up. Was whenever they were like taking manual control of the throttle and not just running on their feels. All right, so 2 problems solved. The car behind me with their brights on have their brights off now. And then the car slowing down in front of me, I'm in front of it now. But the car that I just passed has been bright lighting people like crazy. So I'm not too thrilled about having them behind me because they just keep flashing their high beams at people. But they're quite a ways back behind me now. They slowed way down. That's the car that was driving behind me with their brights on. Looks like California plates. 2 people in the car at least. So yeah, crashed out at the way station. The cop working there was cool. I blessed their bathroom. Took a 7-hour sleeper split and then got rolling. Drove all the way to Oklahoma, just like 6-8 miles across the border into Oklahoma. Stopped at a Pilot Flying J, took a shower, ate some food, took a 3-hour, I guess you call it a break. Just sat there and waited for the 3 hours to be up. And then once the 3 hours was up, that ended the second half of my sleeper split. So as soon as that was up, I took off and drove up to Pryor, Oklahoma to the Google place. I got there right at exactly 5 p.m., which was my appointment time. I thought I was going to be 1 to 2 hours late, but I got there at exactly like 5 p.m. And then I ran into a whole bunch of problems with getting access. So on every single one of these Google loads that you go, like there's lots of different Google facilities. Some of them are not secure. Some of them are secure. If you go to one of their secure locations, there's a process where you have to send a picture of your CDL, and then the JQL agency has to submit a an ARF. They called it Google. The Google security guard called it an ARF, which I'm guessing stands for what would that be? That would be something request form, not authorization. Not activation, not admittance. Access request form. I'm pretty sure that's what it stands for. Well, I sent in, within 5 minutes of booking the load, I emailed them a copy of my CDL. And somewhere along the process, something screwed up. And it did not get processed correctly. Just a second here. I did not realize that car was going that slow. I would have slowed down and let Old Dominion over. I feel bad about running them into that car now. I'm sorry, massa. So they let me sit at the security gate while they, sent a message to JQL requesting them to process or fill out the request form. And I sat there at the security gate for like 20 or 30 minutes. And then I was finally like, I called JQL and I talked with them, and they said that they were working on it, trying to figure out what was wrong. They were trying to submit it and all that stuff. And I told the security people, they told me that they would call me once they figured out what was wrong and how to fix it. So, I hate that I'm blocking your entrance here. So I think it'd be best if I just pulled over and parked across the street while I wait to figure this out. And they're like, all right. So I turned around and left there. Just parked across the street. And I don't know, after like an hour, I got there at 5, and they called me at 6:05, and they said that they got a notification that my access was approved at 6:01. So they called me at 6:05 and told me, and I drove over to the other gate because the gate that I checked in at 5 p.m. closed at 6 p.m. So I had to drive over to the other gate, checked in with them, and they said, yeah, they see that I have access, but I don't have a profile, and they can't do anything without a profile. They can't assign me a badge or anything without a profile. And they didn't know what to do. So they were sending messages to people, asking people what to do, and nobody that they were able to reach knew what to do. So he said, you could just come back later and check in and see if you have a profile, or you can call your boss and ask them to fix it. And I was like, all right, thanks. So I drove back over to the car, the parking area, the truck parking area. Called JQL again, told them what the security guard told me, and they had no idea what a profile was. So we were all assuming that whatever this profile was some type of Google internal thing. It's not something that JQL has any control over, submitting or fixing. Is there a way station around here? I just got a thing about follow road signs. I haven't seen any signage about a way station. But DriveWise will warn you about temporary way stations. You know, any way station that's basically anywhere they've ever set up a temporary way station, it'll warn you, like, you're going by a temporary way station area right now. And you're like, where? Like, what? Where is this temporary way station? Which reminds me, we're going to digress off into something else now. I'll get back to what happened with that. I'll try to remember where I left off, which I'm really bad at. But that reminded me of something. I was getting a DOT inspection done at one of the TAs in Oklahoma City, and I was chatting it up with the mechanic, and somehow we got on the topic of the DOT way stations, and he was talking about them setting up a temporary way station. I think he was talking about, like, it was something that Oklahoma or Texas, I forget who it was, they used to do these blitz things where he said they would set up a temporary way station and they would just pull tons of people in, and they were looking for very specific things. And I can't remember the whole story, but I remember he said that what TA did is they went and set up a DOT inspection site at, like, the off-ramp right before the DOT temporary way station site. And they put, like, signs up saying there's a DOT blitz happening at the next exit or something like that, free brake inspections or something. I think they were checking brakes. And TA basically set up a free brake inspection site at the exit right before. And he said they used to make a killing at that because they did the brake inspections for free, but if the brakes weren't going to pass the DOT inspection at the next way station, or the temporary way station, that people would go ahead and pay them to get it legal so that they wouldn't get a violation. And they were making tons of money doing brake replacements. And he said that the DOT came over there and told them that they couldn't do that. They told them to stop. The DOT, whenever they first started doing it, they were getting tons of violations. But he said after they set up that free brake check area, they stopped getting very many violations, and the DOT got mad and made them shut down. I don't know what exactly they said to force them. I don't know what law they were breaking, but he said the DOT made them shut it down. But he said that they used to do that, like, I think it was once or twice a year. And he said he really enjoyed it. He was just sitting there doing brakes all day. I think what it was maybe he was replacing the brakes. So maybe that's how that conversation got brought up, is maybe he was replacing the brakes, and he was explaining to me, like, why he was so fast and so good at replacing brakes is because, he used to do that all day during those blitzes or whatever. But I think TA Petro still does like free brake inspections whenever there's like a DOT blitz week, but they do them at their shops now instead of like setting up temporary sites. I know I've seen in the past where TA Petro or some shop has been advertising like free brake inspections because of like Blitz Week. All right, 31 miles away, and I have 44 minutes. So even at a 60 mile per hour average, I should have 13 extra minutes. I'm still 21 miles away from getting onto Interstate 240. And I think the speed limit's dropped down to 70 now. I'm still doing 72. Google's telling me the speed limit is 70, but I haven't seen a sign. But that doesn't mean I didn't miss it. All right, we're coming up on a speed limit sign. Let's see if Google's right. Yep, it's 70. So let's set the cruise down at 70 because it is not going to go above 70 between now and getting to the parking spot. It's just going to get lower. I think it's going to drop down to 65 when we get closer to town. And it should be 65 all the way to the parking spot just past Bryant Avenue where I'm going to exit for the place I parked the truck. That's like a mile past there, or like right past that exit is where the speed limit drops down from 65 to 60. So we should be good to go 65 at least for the rest of the way. All right, now where did I leave off on the story? So took a shower and all that stuff. Got to Google. We covered all that. Where exactly were we at? So the profile thing. I drove up there. The person didn't know about the profile. I called and talked with JQL about the profile. They didn't have any idea what I was talking about. They said that they would figure out what was going on. So I sat there waiting on JQL to call me back and give me an update as to what was going on. And after sitting there for about 45 minutes, I was like, all right, I'm just going to drive back over there. And because the security guard told me that what I should do, left lane closed in half a mile, is I should just come back over there and check in with him periodically to see if the profile is updated. So I drove back over there after like 45 minutes and walked up to the shack, and he still had my information, I'm guessing, because I didn't have to give him all the info. And he said, yeah, I just checked it. It's still no profile. I was like, all right, thanks. And then, I did my little Eeyore impression. I was like, all right. And walked back to my truck with my tail between my legs. Drove back over to the parking spot, and I'm getting concerned that maybe they had forgotten about me because it'd been a while. So I called JQL up, and I'm like, I got a hold of a new person I hadn't talked to yet about the issue. So I explained to him what was going on. I said there should be an email chain about it because I've talked with like 3 different people, and they said that they were going to update me as to what's going on, and it's been a while since I've gotten any contact, so I'm just checking to see what the status is. And he found the email chain, and he said the last update was like 30 minutes ago, and it was basically somebody saying that we're going to do whatever we need to do to get him unloaded tonight, and they're trying to figure out what to do. And he said that they thought they were working on getting the shuttle driver to just have me drop the trailer, and the shuttle driver would take it in and unload it and bring the trailer back out to me. And I was like, sounds good. And then 15 seconds after I get off the phone with that guy, somebody else at JQL calls me and says, hey, the shuttle driver's at lunch right now, but we're going to have him come over and take the trailer and get it unloaded. And you can grab an empty. And I said, or I can wait for the trailer to be unloaded. I don't care. And he said, yeah, we've been getting we have a lot of broken empties out there, so you probably don't want to get one of those empties. I said, yeah, I do not like doing drop and hooks. I usually end up spending 1 to 2 days in the shop every time I do a drop and hook because it's a bunch of broken trailers out here. And he is like, yeah, we'll just have him unload it and bring it back out to you. I was like, awesome. Sounds good. He's like, well, he's on lunch right now. He'll be out there when he gets off lunch. And I confirmed to him the location where I was at, made sure he knew where I was at. He said, all right, he'll be out there shortly. So I went ahead and dropped the trailer, and he was out there within like 15 minutes. And because he was a local driver that was constantly bringing loads in and out of that place, he was familiar with the check-in, check-out process and all their processes and procedures, and all the people there knew him. So he got that trailer unloaded in like 30 minutes. He only had the trailer for like 30 to 45 minutes. But it did only have 7 pallets on it. But if it would have been me, like, it would have taken me an hour and a half or longer to get that trailer unloaded. For one, he was driving like a maniac across the property. I would have been going like 10 miles an hour, and he was going like 30 miles an hour on Google's property. So, and he didn't need an escort. They were going to give me an escort because it was kind of mazy in there. They were going to give me an escort to make sure that I got to the right place. So I was going to have to wait for an escort car and all kinds of stuff. It would have taken forever. There's no way I would have been able to make it home tonight if I would have gone in there to get it unloaded. As soon as he pulled away with the trailer, as he was turning out of the parking lot I was in, I got a text message with a picture of my authorization. They had finally gotten me cleared to get in there. But yeah, he came out there and dropped the trailer, and I got hooked up to it as quickly as I could. But when I checked inside the trailer, I noticed that he left the strap in the trailer, and so I had to jump in there and grab the strap out and ran it over to him. And I was like, hey, the strap's part of the load, so could you give it to Google next time you go in there? He's like, oh yeah, I wasn't sure if it was yours or not, so I just left it in there. So gave him the strap, and then started recording the video shortly after that, because I just switched over my load information to empty from my load number, and then just took off after, did a really quick inspection on the tractor and trailer and all that good stuff. And I think I've recorded it basically from there to here. Ugh. Nice little bump. All right, we've got 10 miles until the 240 exit. And at this point, I'm starting to get, all right, this is Prime Incorporated we're flying by right now. They're going pretty quick. I'm doing 70, and I would say I'm going approximately 5 miles an hour faster than them. I'm going past them pretty quick. Somewhere between 3 and 5 miles per hour. So they're going like 65 to 67, somewhere in that area. And what's this four-wheeler going to do? Are they going to keep going the same speed, or are they going to speed up, try to keep me from passing? So the reason I'm starting to get hesitant about passing people is because I think the speed limit's going to drop down to 65 real soon. I think it drops down to 65 approximately 5 miles away from the 240 exit. Because shortly after the 240 exit, I think you start hitting the actual town. All right, we just crossed Oklahoma City city limits. We're in Oklahoma City now. Can't you see the town? Yeah, Oklahoma City city limits are massive. As far as like square miles, I suspect that Oklahoma City is one of the largest cities in the country on square mileage, because the city limits extend way beyond the actual city. That's something I'm curious about, and I've thought about looking it up, like where Oklahoma City ranks on square mileage against other cities in the United States, but I've never gotten around to doing it. Every time I think about it, I'm driving and I can't be looking that stuff up. And when I'm not driving, I don't think about it. Man, I've driven on a lot of pretty messed up road on this trip. I-40 across, like there are sections of I-40 across Oklahoma that are brand new. Like what we just got onto is brand new road. But man, there's been a lot of bad sections of I-40 across Tennessee, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. I'm pretty sure that's what caused the blowout, was just really rough road. Like it was, man, I was just getting slammed around. All right, let's do a quick time check. We are 16 miles away with 31 minutes. That's 15 spare minutes with a 60 mile per hour average. Speed limit is still 70, just past a sign. We're 4.9 miles away from the 240 exit, so I'm expecting the speed limit's going to drop down to 65 pretty soon. But I'm not going to mind if it stays 70. That's just a few more seconds it gives me. At this point, I'm not going to need to use personal conveyance. I am going to need to be really quick at the gate, though. I might maybe need to like switch over to personal conveyance once I get onto the property. Like I'm not going to drive really fast over the railroad tracks and risk damaging something. Blow another tire driving on rough road. All right, new speed limit sign. Is it staying 70? It is staying 70. I'm really surprised. I thought it dropped to 65 before the 240 exit. 3.3 miles to the 240 exit. I think it's like a 55 mile per hour exit. We exit off to the right, and then it comes back around over the interstate. And there should basically be no traffic on 240. Like, there's hardly anything on I-40. Like, this section of I-40 is usually really busy during the day. Yeah, I think that's got us pretty much caught up with what happened with me. And I can't remember what the last video I made was, what it was about. I can't remember if I made a video after I delivered that load in Atlanta. But in case I didn't cover that in a previous video, I basically I think it was an uneventful drive. I don't think there was anything major that happened in that drive. I got there, I think, a day early for the delivery appointment. And I drove over there. I arrived at the receiver. What time did I get there? Did I get there at 5 a.m. and it was I think it was a 7 a.m. appointment, and I got there at 5 a.m. And there are already a ton of trucks.
Keep right to continue on I-240 West.
All right, it's the right two lanes exit to 240, and the right lane is closed for construction. Just a second here. What is this four-wheeler doing? Please don't take the exit. Great. I'm getting behind some moron that doesn't know what's going on. They're slowing way down. They were in the wrong lane for the exit and just cut across the last second. Is this an inebriated driver? Speed limit's 55, and we're doing 40. Yeah, this person is all kinds of confused. Probably just somebody that lives out in the country. They're not familiar with the area. Now they're speeding up. Now they feel a lot more comfortable. They're taking off. All right, 70 mile per hour speed limit still. 9.6 miles. and we've got 25 minutes left. So we're still sitting at about 15 minutes of spare time, which is basically going to give me 15 minutes to get from the off ramp to my parking spot, which should be doable with time to spare. And I hate coming in from this direction in a truck because it is impossible to make a left turn at the end of the off ramp without going over the curb. And I hate going over curbs. It's really bad on the vehicles. So I try to do that really, really slow. If I'm going to be forced to drive over a curb like that, then I try to do it really, really slow to reduce the risk of damage. Oh, wow. The truck behind me is going out in the left lane for the pass. I've got the cruise set on 70, so. And they are, like, slow passing me. My guess is that they're governed at 72. So they're probably going like 2 miles an hour faster than me. They're creeping by. All right, there's a car about a mile back. If this person snail racing me starts blocking traffic. Is this a FedEx? No, PTG. Some small no-name carrier. And they found some speed. Affiliated Foods Incorporated. And now they lost their speed because of the hill. Now let's see what they do. Are they going to cut me off? Or are they going to wait until they get a safe distance before they come over? There's nobody behind us. That car that was a mile back, I can't see their headlights anymore. I don't even know if they're still on the road. So there's no reason to come over quick. So they waited a safe distance. If they come over right now, I'm cool with that. I still see lightning straight ahead. All right, speed limit just dropped to 65, so tap the brakes, turn off the cruise. 4.7 miles until our exit. And shortly after our exit, the speed limit drops down to 60. And the speed limit throughout most of Oklahoma City is 60 on interstates. What in the hell? I hear an airplane. Yeah, it just flew right over top of me from right to left. Tinker Air Force Base. We just drove by Tinker Air Force Base. That's probably where that plane was landing. From what I've heard, Tinker Air Force Base is like it's a place where they do maintenance and repairs on bombers. I think it's mainly like a maintenance and repair facility. But but there's all kinds of stuff that happens there. It's a pretty big military base. 3.1 miles. That person is hauling butt. I would guesstimate that they were going, and that person is hauling butt too. I think they're traveling together. Great. Rocks hitting my windshield. Those are the type of vehicles that throw up rocks. Vehicles that are accelerating. When their tire speed is faster than the surface. I don't know how to explain it. I'm sure physics can explain it, but just a second here. I'm catching up with a slower car. 2.2 miles. But it's every time I've had my window hit with a rock, it's been a vehicle. It's usually four-wheelers that are going really fast. They're basically accelerating. All right, 1.5 miles. I'm going to slow down because I'm not going to pass this car 1.5 miles before an exit. 18 minutes, 2 miles away. 1.3 miles to the exit. It's the next exit, exit 6. And who knows, maybe we'll get lucky and the gate's open. I don't know what determines whether or not they leave the gate open or close it. Maybe it's because they forget. Maybe it's because there's somebody working late. I don't know. But like, there's a lot of times that I roll up to the property and the gate's just open all night.
In a half mile, take exit 6 toward Bryant Avenue.
All right. This is our exit. Let's get ready for this really tight turn at the end of the off-ramp. And then the really nasty railroad tracks that we're going to go like 2 miles an hour across. All right, we're going to try to swing as wide as we can and go really slow.
74th Street, East I-240 Service Road. Then turn right onto South Bryant Avenue.
And this is, why would they build such a tight little road?
Turn right onto South Bryant Avenue.
In basically an industrial park. There's no shoulder. It's just a curb. Yeah, that was not even close. I'm like 3 feet over the curb now. Let's swing way over this way to make this right turn.
In 1,000 feet.
They got all these curves, just hard curves. All through here instead of shoulders. And now we've got the really rough railroad tracks. And then to turn into the place, I have to swing out really wide because it's a fairly narrow driveway. And occasionally you get some inconsiderate person
Right, then turn left.
that's leaving. It's closed. that, just so here, make sure this four-wheeler doesn't try to pass me on the right, that's leaving, and they'll park over on the left side, and like it can cause a really awkward situation. Just a second here, let me go open the gate. 15 minutes. It's just now starting to rain. But yeah, I've had to sit out there in the road while somebody pulls out of here because they are just parked over here on right in the middle or down the left side where I can't get in. I have to wait for them to pull out before I can even turn into the place. And this place almost went out of business not too long ago. I think it was last year. Their main office person, Sarah, like somebody that they really liked. Like I remember, there's two Glens. There's Glenn and Glenn Senior, and it's a father and son, and they own, one of them owns some of the stuff, and the other one owns some of the stuff. Like the parking lot here is owned by Glenn Senior. The shop, I believe, is owned by Glenn Junior. I don't know which of them owns the trucking company.
In 600 feet, turn right.
All right, I think I'm one more spot over. Yeah, I'm one more spot over. All right, there we go. 12 minutes left, and I'm going to go ahead and switch over to on-duty PTI, pre-trip, post-trip inspection. I can't back all the way into my spot because my car is there. But I'm going to get somewhat lined up into it. And I'm going to pause the video while I go move my car. Be right back. All right. Both spots, both parking spots on either side of me are empty right now, which is awesome. That means I can park my car in the spot next to me. And unload the truck easier. Oh, it's one of the RXO people. Can't stand those people. I moved parking spots because of them. So I don't think anything happened to my car while I was away. I haven't fully inspected it yet. But so far, just a cursory inspection, it looked all good. Let me just check something on my ELD here. I'm going to switch it over to no sleeper split and see if it causes any issues. I'm pretty sure that I don't need to do another sleeper break. Yeah, it's good. So now go off duty and certify logs. 8 of 8 days certified. We're all good. And let me just make sure I'm lined up in the parking spot correctly. Looks perfect from here. They don't have lines, so you just kind of have to eyeball it. And I've had people park next to me before that just, they park diagonal and stuff. Like there was a parking spot that I was going to move to, but Glenn told me that the girl that parks in the spot next to it, for some reason, she keeps parking diagonally across both spots. So I can't park in that spot. Glenn is a lot more tolerant than most people. He's a really nice guy. He lets people get away with a lot of stuff here. All right, I'm basically backed up all the way. Ooh, wow, I just noticed that bulge. Somebody bumped the side of the trailer from the inside, and that's new, so that must have happened while they were unloading it at Google. But Landstar doesn't care about that stuff. I've contacted Landstar before on stuff like that. You know, people hitting the trailer when they're backing into spots next to me and stuff. I've reported that stuff to trailer maintenance, and they're like, do you need to put it in the shop? Like, what are you calling? Why are you telling us? Like, it's your trailer. Do you not want to know that somebody hit it and scratched up the side of it? And they just didn't know how to respond to that. So I stopped reporting cosmetic stuff. If it doesn't need to go in the shop, I don't bother telling Landstar about it, because they don't know how to deal with that stuff. They don't have like a submission form for that. So, how to wrap up this video. So what's going to happen now? What's next on the agenda? I am going to spend about 30 minutes. I think I'm in the camera view now. You get to see me in all my glory. I'm bringing back the cheap t-shirt and short look. I've seen a lot of other people wearing t-shirts and shorts. So we're going to start a gang, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I need to unload all of the food that requires refrigeration. And even the food that doesn't require refrigeration, I'm probably going to move over into the car and take it home with me, because it gets so hot in the truck while it is parked here in the summer. And even if I leave something like Little Debbie oatmeal pies, what'll end up happening is it's going to get up to like 130 degrees inside the truck, and the cream inside of them will liquefy, and it'll just like turn it into something different. So yeah, I'll basically remove. What I will probably leave in the truck are things like crackers, cereal, you know, dehydrated type things that have no liquid in them, that are going to have like no effect from being at like 130 degrees. Anything that I think is going to get ruined by getting up to 130 degrees, I'm going to take it home with me. So I got to get all of my laundry, my bed material, my computer, all the food, which normally I don't have a ton of food, but I actually have a ton of food in the truck. I have enough clothes and food that I could have easily stayed out for another month or two. I was getting the clothes that I was running out of while I was out over the road it used to be socks And then I bought a couple of packages of socks. And then I started running out of underwear. Like, I had plenty of everything else, but I was down to like my last pair of underwear. So I needed to get home to do laundry for underwear. So then I bought underwear. So now, like, I've extended my clothing by another month or two. And then the reason the food was lasting so long is because I was able to go to Walmart and restock food. So I basically haven't been eating any of my frozen food for like the last 2 or 3 weeks. I've been eating all that stuff from Walmart, the hot dogs. I've been living on hot dogs. And what else I get at Walmart? I can't remember. Oh, generic brand Pringles. Pringles, like the generic barbecue Pringles chips, and some other snack foods. Oreo cookies, and I can't remember what all else. I bought a bunch of snack food because I didn't bring any snack food with me whenever I left the house. So I was craving snack food whenever I went shopping at Walmart. But anyway, I am not looking forward to unloading this truck, but I need to just get it over with. That's kind of like my mentality for everything is I'm really bad about procrastinating about doing things, but once I start doing something, I'm good to go. It's just that first step is what I have a problem with. I procrastinate on everything until I make that first step. But after I make that first step, it's just gut through it. Just get it done. I'm really tired right now. I've gotten very little sleep in the last few days. I've been running my ass off. I have a ton of crap I need to do while I'm at home. I should probably start the APU and let it run while I'm unloading the truck. That way it's not going to have any problems starting to keep the batteries charged, because I basically haven't run the APU since I left Washington. It's been so hot that I've just been idling the main engine for air conditioning. So the APU has very little runtime on it over the last couple of weeks. And that thing's like a lawnmower. If it goes a month without starting, it becomes difficult to start. So I should probably start it, let it run for a few minutes before I take off out of here, just to make sure that it doesn't have any issues starting when it needs to charge the batteries. Oh, and I should probably put some biocide in the fuel tanks before I take off, because I didn't put any biocide in the last time I fueled up. I've been putting it in pretty consistently on almost all my fuel ups since I've gone out over the road. So I probably don't even need to use the biocide, but while the truck's setting, it'd probably be best to put some in there. I have no idea how the algae or whatever got into the fuel tank. I've never had a problem with that before, but all of a sudden I have a problem with it, so I want to get that resolved. But anyway, let's wrap this up and just get her done. And one other thing, the car, everything looks good on the car. One of the telltale signs that something happened to the car is the battery being low. When that person, which I think was probably an RXO driver, threw a pallet onto the hood of my car, I got home and I had that big dent in the hood of my car. I had the pallet laying in front of the car, and the battery was almost dead on the car. It's the only time I've ever had the battery even remotely close to dead. It uses almost no battery. So I suspect what happened was whenever they threw that pallet on the car, it set off the car alarm, and the car alarm set here going off. um, until the battery got low, and then it probably killed the alarm because the battery got low. Yeah, I'll look at it. I'll inspect it closer when I get home under better lighting in the garage. But that's me. That's what's going on with me. Finally home. So glad that I was able to make it home and not have to take a rest break out away from the house. It was quite the journey. And even though I took a shower just a few hours ago, I think it was around noon. No, it was like, I think it was like 2 p.m. that I had a shower today. So it's just like almost 10 hours ago. I want to take another shower right now at my house. I'm looking forward to getting home and taking a shower because I was sweating like crazy out there at Google because it was like 100 degrees outside. I need to do a post-trip inspection on everything. You don't want surprises. I don't want to. Oh, and something else. Let me go ahead and do this while I'm recording. So this, I'm going to show you my little spray bottle and how I wash the windshield. It's not, that amazing. It's not some intricate thing. I just have a whole bunch of spray bottles like this, and I put isopropyl alcohol in some of them. This particular one has water with some Dawn dishwashing liquid in it. Not a whole lot, but a generous amount of Dawn dishwashing liquid. It doesn't take much. And I just hose down the windshield. And you don't want it to dry up, but it's nice to leave it on there for a second or two. And then I just turn the windshield wipers on and let them go for a few swipes. And it's really nasty right now, so when it's really nasty like this, that cleans it up quite a bit. When it's really nasty like this, I'll usually do it 2 or 3 times, but that cleaned it up. That got almost everything off, just that. The Dawn dishwashing liquid makes a huge difference in the cleaning ability. Like straight water does almost nothing. But you put some Dawn dishwashing liquid in it, and oh my goodness, it makes a world of difference. What I'm wanting to do is make my own windshield washer fluid with Dawn dishwashing liquid, some methanol, and I'm not sure what else to put in there. Every time I've looked up for recipes on making your own, it always says to put ammonia in it. I don't know why. Maybe because it's a biocide or something. I think ammonia is like an antifungal. But I've never really used ammonia as a cleaning product. I read that ammonia is really good at killing mold, like in the bathroom. But I have had no luck with ammonia on mold. Bleach on mold does the trick. All right, that's gotten the window mostly clean. Now, why did I bother washing the window when I'm about to go home? Well, because as it sets out here in the sun all day long, if you leave the windshield covered in bugs, then they get harder to get off of there. It gets more difficult to clean them off as they bake onto the windshield. So it's just making it easier for next time. Preparation. So have a good one. And I'm hoping to not be home for very long. And I am looking forward to hibernating in my room. I have not been sleeping well inside the truck. I don't sleep well when the truck's idling. I don't sleep well when the windows are open. And that's basically, until I get an APU air conditioner functioning, that is going to be my situation in the truck unless it's winter. I'm looking forward to the winter. I sleep like a baby in this truck in the winter because I can close all the windows. It gets nice and quiet in here. I can close all of the blinds and the curtains and everything and put up my son's windshield things. And it can get pitch black in here. It can get quiet in here. I have a box of earplugs. So I can put in my earplugs, get it nice and pitch black in here. And when the APU kicks on, I don't even really feel that. I don't even hear it. When the main engine's running, it doesn't stay at the same idle all the time. It changes idle occasionally, and it'll rock the truck around when it's doing that. So just imagine you're trying to sleep, and occasionally somebody just walks over and rocks your bed. They shake your bed. So it's really, really hard for me to get a good rest while the truck's idling. And I need to get the generator fixed on the APU. And I need to figure out if that's the only reason that the air conditioner is not working, or if there's an issue with the air conditioner. But that's still something I need to tackle. But I am looking forward to the winter so that I can sleep much better in the truck. And I'm looking forward to getting home and getting caught up on some sleep. Just getting in my room, which I have blacked out the curtains. In the middle of the day, it's pitch black in my room. Nice and quiet. I have a window unit air conditioner in there. I can get it ice cold. Oh, my goodness. My bedroom is awesome for sleeping. So, looking forward to getting there and doing all that good stuff. So, I'm procrastinating right now. I just need to start getting it done. Just start the process. Get the stuff into the car. You know what? I'll start the process while you're here with me. What's an easy thing to start the process with? You just got to get the ball rolling. You don't have to get everything done. You don't have to win the game with one swing. You don't have to get it all done in one trip. So, easiest thing is going to be my dirty clothes, because they're already in my little dirty clothes bag. And then my bedding material. All I've got to do is grab it and rip it off the bed, wad it up, and throw it in the car. And that's a big bulk of the items that I take home with me. That takes up a lot of space. The dirty clothes and the bedding material. Ripping the bedding material off the bed right now. And you know what? I didn't ever change Sorry about that. I rubbed against the mic. I never changed the sheets while I was out over the road this time. I bring a total of 3 sets of sheets with me out over the road. I just started doing that recently, like probably about 6 months ago, I would guess. And the reason I started doing that is because just a second, I don't know if the mic is being picked up from this distance. The reason I started bringing extra sheets is because I was staying out for long periods of time, and I was getting pretty nasty, and I was sleeping in bed and not showering for like 3 and 4 days at a time. My sheets were getting all nasty. So I was getting into a situation where right after I take a shower, I'm crawling into bed. I'm basically putting on dirty clothes, crawling into bed with dirty sheets. But the sheets I never felt got dirty enough this time to warrant changing them out. The sweating in bed also had a big part in it, because whenever I was out over the road last time, I don't think I idled the truck at all. I was just relying on open windows, and I was going to sleep when it was like 75, 80 degrees in the truck with just a fan on me. So I was sweating on the sheets quite a bit. But this time, every time I slept, I idled the truck. It was just too hot. It was like 90 plus degrees outside, and even at night, it's like 80 degrees. But it wasn't actually that bad when I was up in, what was it, Ellensburg, Washington. I didn't idle the truck there for air conditioning. I might have maybe for a few hours on a really hot day, but for the most part, I didn't idle the truck while I was out there. But ever since I left there, it's just been way too hot. So anyway, let's wrap up the video. Maybe I'll try to make a load board video while I'm at home. So have a good one. Bye.